On to another one of today's papers, the ongoing post office inquiry. God, has entered its fifth and sixth stages. Anybody who saw that programme and knows what's going on, this is an appalling story.
Well, today's inquiry will hear evidence from Angela van der Bogerd. She is the former Post Office People Services Director and Programme Director for the Branch Support Programme.
Joining us now to discuss this further, Conservative MP and former Post Office and London Minister Paul Scully. Good morning, Paul. Last time I saw you was with a glass of wine in your hand. Are you well, my friend?
I am very well. We were celebrating James Whale's long overdue award, and it was lovely to see you then. This is a really important day, Jeremy. Really important day. Angela van der Bogerd has been around for a really long chunk of the time that those postmasters were suffering, including through the court case that was featured at the end of the drama. And she was castigated by the judge, saying he said that she didn't give her frank evidence. And that she was trying to obfuscate through that court case.
I know that we've talked about it. We were talking about it on JK Live a year and a half ago. I think it's one of the biggest miscarriages of justice in the United Kingdom. And thank God. We were doing the blood scandal the other day, which I think has realms of the same thing. But when you think, we always try and say this, don't we, Nick? Because people go, oh, it's Post Office, Horizon scandal. People took their lives. People lost their dignity, their standing in the community, their health, their life savings. I genuinely, without wanting to ramp it up, believe that people associated with the decisions that we're taking should and hopefully will end up in jail, Paul.
Yeah, look, you're so right to make sure that we do not feel desensitised to this. What you saw in that drama, that amazing drama over the New Year, 4 episodes, quite high octane. I was weeping throughout most of it because I knew a lot of the people. I knew what had happened to them. You're absolutely right. They were castigated. They were cast out of their own local communities, seen as thieves. If there's no smoke, there's no smoke without fire. They lost everything. Some of these people, including their families, their health, and indeed, as you say, in some cases, their lives. There is nothing too small or too large that we can do for these people. We've got to do as much as we can.
And do you think part of that path to justice would potentially involve criminal convictions for those who were responsible for lying and certainly misleading investigations into the Horizon scandal?
I think that's got to be open there as a possibility. I don't want to prejudge anything, because the entire reason that I set up this inquiry in the first place, nearly 4 years ago now, was to make sure that we can get the answers, that we can have everybody come, give a very open explanation of what they've done, what they knew, and when. And so Wynne Williams, the chairman, can piece all of this together. And at that point, that's when we need to start pointing figures and holding these people to account.
I didn't know. I'm delighted to highlight this. I had no idea that you, as the Post Office Minister, had initiated this inquiry, Paul, and more strength to your elbow. That was before this programme came out, which gave fuel to the fire, so to speak. What do you predict? I know this is a stupid question, so forgive me. We know each other well enough. What do you believe the outcome will be? I mean, obviously, I'm slightly chuffed to hear that the people who have suffered are getting a fair trial and good exposure in the press. What do you think will happen as the ex-minister who set it up?
The main thing for me, yes, we want to know the answers. We want to hold these people to account. The main thing first is to restore those past postmasters to some semblance of a normal life. And I mean some semblance, because as I say, you can give people money, you can't restore the suffering that they've had. So that's always been my main priority. But we've got to make sure that the taxpayer isn't on the hook for all of this. So we've got to see companies like Fujitsu and what have you that supplied the Horizon software. And we've got to make sure that they chip in as well to, more than just chip in to provide that restitution. But we've also got to say, now, how on earth did this ever happen? People were doubling down. People like Angela van der Bogerd, she was been there for a good chunk of the time, including the years leading up to the court case that were featured in that. And you had this groupthink when people just felt it was all about the brand, the Post Office brand, and not about human beings. This is a human failure at the end of the day.
Paul, to what extent do you think that people are still doing that about Fujitsu? We still have government contracts with that exact same company. What investigation is being done into those remaining contracts and certainly any future contract agreements that are made with that company?
Yeah, and I think Fujitsu is a massive company. It took over a company called ICL at the time, who already had the contract for Horizon, and it was a sort of good way into government. These companies, part of the problem with government procurement is because the size of the services that typically government have to procure often need these big companies coming in, and we've got to try and find a way of breaking that down so small, more innovative companies can crack on. But Fujitsu got taken, I think, off the preferred bidding list. So every time they do bid for contract, they have to go through extra hoops, as it were, to see that division of this massive company.
Shouldn't they pay out the compensation in full before even being allowed to bid for a government contract? That would seem to make sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as I say, I think we've got, there are certain contracts that they've stepped back from bidding from a number of contracts. So the ones that they've got are extensions of contracts that they've already got. But yes, absolutely, they need to be paying. And I think they've already said they will do, but we've got to make sure that they actually hand over cold hard cash.
Paul, difficult, but then you've always struck me as somebody who'll say it as you see it. 4 years ago, as the Post Office Minister, you instigated this. This is actually not political, by the way, because Labour and Tory ministers. Can you explain to me how, however many of your predecessors, including a Liberal Democrat leader, including a Tory, including a Labour, why on earth were you the person who took this seriously? Why on earth, for 20 years, were these people made to suffer in silence, my friend?
Well, it's a difficult one to know, because I could only say there, but for the grace of God, I had the court case, as I say, that we've seen in that drama. I had all of the judgment that Justice Fraser had, absolutely condemning Post Office, Fujitsu, and all of these people to make my decisions, to help me make my decisions. But even then, there were lots of people saying, well, we've had that judgment now, we don't need to do anything more. And it just did not feel right. So I started the compensation schemes. You have to ask questions. As an MP, that's sort of what you're there to do. As a backbench MP, you hold your ministers in how you would want to be doing the job. And hopefully that's what I did. But
thank God you did, pal. Thank God you did, eh?
Thank you for joining us this morning and for all of the work that you do to support those victims of the Horizon scandal. Paul Scully there.
Thanks, mate.